Shalom Fam, Solo Soul here, also known as Coach Arthur. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And to my returning family, thank you again for the love, support, and prayers. Fam, today I'm going to talk about American secrets as it relates to migrant workers of Florida and South Carolina. Some of you can relate to this. A lot of so-called African American people, after slavery was abolished, we stayed on the plantation to work for our plantation owners because we had no land, we had no rights. So recently, me and my mom, Pastor Betty, visited South Carolina, and we did a My History, My Heritage conference. Then that later led to our family reunion research, and we did a lot of digging on Ancestry.com. We found a lot of good information about our great-great-grandparents and the type of work they did, and we found their name on the Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's List, and it was just groundbreaking for us because we don't truly know the depth of our history and our impact that we've had in this nation. So it's not taught in schools. You know, you won't really learn it, unless we go and dig it up. So let's talk about it tonight, fam.
Over here, 7 cents. All day talking. Over here, 7 cents today. We're paying today. We're paying more than anybody in town. 7 cents, heavier today. 70 cents today. 70 cents. 70 cents all day jumping. All I can do is advance you.
8 cents a box, and you guarantee you if you pull today and we pull what we got to pull today, you'll have $11 in your pocket.
This is not taking place in the Congo. It has nothing to do with Johannesburg or Cape Town. It is not Nyasaland or Nigeria. This is Florida. These are citizens of the United States, 1960. This is a shape-up for migrant workers. The hawkers are chanting the going peace rate at the various fields. This is the way the humans who harvest the food for the best-fed people in the world get hired. One farmer looked at this and said, "We used to own our slaves. Now we just rent them." The Secretary of Labor looked at the migrant plight and said,
"I think they're the great mass of what I've called the excluded Americans. They are people who cry out, the workers and their children and their wives, who cry out for some assistance, and whose plight is a shame. It's a shame in America."
The president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, the largest farmers' organization, says,
"I think that most social workers would agree that it's better for a man to be employed, even if his capacity is such as to limit his income. And we take the position that it's far better to have thousands of these folks who are practically unemployable, earning some money, doing some productive work for at least a few days in the year."
This is an American story that begins in Florida and ends in New Jersey and New York State with the harvest. It is a 1960 Grapes of Wrath that begins at the Mexican border in California and ends in Oregon and Washington. It is the story of men and women and children who work 136 days of the year and average $900 a year. They travel in buses. They ride trucks. They follow the sun.
So fam, you can see how we were exploited. We were considered unemployable, but we were the people who they needed to tend to their crops and tend to their fields. So like he mentioned that, slave owners felt like they were renting their slaves. They still saw us as slaves. So our black men and women did not get the luxury to work in a set career. A lot of us, majority, especially in the South, they didn't get that luxury. So we had to do sharecropping and different jobs. We didn't go do formal employment applications a lot of times because it wasn't available. We were not given that luxury. So a lot of our people were in agricultural labor. The black migrant workers primarily engaged in agriculture, like tobacco, cotton, citrus, vegetables. My mom, Pastor Betty, she know about this because both of her parents were migrant workers, and she was in a lot of these work camps, moving from area to area in Florida, state to state, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Georgia. So we were exploited at the time. It's a sad thing that we were trapped in this cycle of low wage and lack of access to different credit, and we didn't have opportunities, to come up. So, fam, let's continue. Another major discovery for us, fam. We located my great-great-grandmother on the Freedmen's Bureau list, so she signed up for some type of assistance, and that led us to locate my great-great-grandfather, and we know that he worked hand in hand with his previous owner, and he did sharecropping for them for many years. Many generations of, family members worked for them, and that led to him eventually owning a little bit of land and staying in agriculture until he passed. So this next image right here is actually in my current hometown. So this is right here in Polk County back in 1890. So this is also in Florida, in Central Florida, my hometown. So my family migrated here because my great grandmother moved majority of her children here, and they worked in the citrus sector for about 45 to 50 years. So that's my great grandmother, my great uncles, my great aunts, my mom, her siblings. They all worked in citrus. They all worked in the field. So my family definitely put their time into, the citrus sector here in Central Florida. So, fam, I just encourage everybody to dig into your ancestry, know where your ancestors come from, know exactly who they are, their names, where they were born, where they ended up at, and what sector they worked in.
Typically, there was someone who was white who owned the land. They may have owned the animals, and they provided the resources. The work part was done by Negro colored person. So all that was shared was the land. We did all the plowing, okay? We did the planting. We did the cultivating. There was no sharing in the work. There's nobody who farmed who didn't sharecrop, if you were black or colored, because typically you didn't have enough land that you could make it. My paternal grandfather's name was Dr. Richard Newkirk. Doctor was his first name, Richards was his middle name. They called him Chunk. He was actively involved in the community, in church. My dad was in the military. This house here came for sale, and he was involved in making certain that the land was purchased. It was 2 years before people realized that they owned the land. They were somewhat afraid that if people knew that they owned that land, that they would have burned it down, because typically, black people through here don't own land. In that day and time, a white person could hate colored, because you would call colored and Negroes at that time. We weren't called blacks. A white person could hate a colored person or a Negro, but they would like you. So people built relationships. And so once you built a relationship with a person, they knew you. And then you were always thought of, you're Chunk's grandson, I know your grandmother, this, and so then you were safe, you were protected, okay, you were not a threat, you were okay. So they built relationships, and when you build relationships in a community, regardless of who the people are, you're going to be protected.
Alright, fam, so as you can see on the back of this brochure, it's a death certificate for Sarah Brooks. So this is, for one, when you're looking for anything on Ancestry.com, it's extremely hard to find the documents. And for me, it was kind of hard to even read the cursive. So I was telling Jackie earlier today, you can kind of, if you look at the injury, you can kind of see, her cause of death. I believe it was some type of head injury, but I'm not sure on that. Jimmy, if you know, I don't really know. But the way I knew it was her death certificate is by her husband's name. All right, orange pole. If you look, you see the husband. Right there, you can, that's what identified it. So what Ancestry does is it pulls any black female by the name of Sarah Brooks, or Brooks Pope, and it'll, it's hundreds of people. But the way you kind of narrow it down by their location of birth, which for her, they actually don't know her date of birth. So they didn't really, I think they estimated her age, and they don't really know her place of birth, because when you were a slave, you do not get tracked the way, you know, a white person or a Caucasian person would get tracked.
Darien, Georgia, for facility. A roadside stop en route in South Carolina.
Yeah.
1,000 miles north of Belgrade, Florida, by way of U.S. Route 17 and 301, through Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, and New Bern, is Elizabeth City, North Carolina. A bean stop, good for 6 weeks' work. This camp was home for 40 days for the families of Tom Lockett's crew, now 30 hours out of Belgrade.
Miss Blakely, how many years have you been working in agriculture, in the fields?
Oh, practically all of my life. I haven't did no other work much but in the field all of my life. I raised all my kids working in the field.
I noticed that there's some straw over there. What is that for?
Well, that was the straw they brought for the people to sleep on.
Well, weren't mattresses supplied here?
They used to be, but they ain't now.
Mrs. Blakely, where is the water supply over here?
That's it right there.
For how many people?
For this and that over yonder, they all use the same.
And how many bathrooms are there here?
Now.
Where do you use the bathroom? Where are the facilities?
Don't have one. We use our tin tubes.
Mrs. Brown, how did the children fare on the journey up north?
Well, they got kind of fretful, you know, and got so riding, handling them. But we made it.
Miss Brown, may I ask how old you are?
I'm 37.
Mrs. Brown, how many years have you been working in the fields?
All my life.
Do you remember how old you were when you started?
I was about 8 years old.
Would you like to get out of this work?
I sure would.
Do you think you'll ever be able to?
I'm hoping so.
Do you think you'll be able to, though?
I don't know.
20 miles from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the workers, driven 900 miles north by crew leader Norman Hall, picked beans at the prevailing rate of 50 cents a hamper. Lunch is not a picnic, whether brought from the labor camp or purchased at the open-air kitchen, or in a bottle, heated by the rays of the sun.
In a survey in 21 states conducted by the National Council of Churches, the migrants themselves listed the evils of labor camp life. Bad housing, flies, mosquitoes, dirty beds and mattresses, unsanitary toilets, and lack of hot water for bathing. One employer of hundreds of migrant laborers was asked, are they happy people?
Well, I guess they got a little gypsy in their blood. They just like it. A lot of them wouldn't do anything else. A lot of them don't know any different. That's all they want to do. They love it. They love to go from place to place. They don't have a worry in the world. They're happier than we are. Today, they eat. Tomorrow, they don't worry about. They're the happiest race of people on earth.
Mr. Jones, do you think that the migratory laborer makes a living wage?
They make a poor living. In other words, sometimes it's just like the farmer. Sometimes when things are good, when the yields are good.
Now, fam, I don't know if this Tom Lockett, but how in the heck can you sit there and say we have such a poor wage, we make no money, but we're happy? How can we be a happy race of people not making enough money to feed our family, to buy a home, to pay for anything? No basic necessities, working like slaves. How can you say that we're happy? Man, I'm telling you, they've been wicked, still wicked.
There are days when beans are not ready for harvest, and that's one more day with no income. Ed King, a crew leader, hauled his workers to this camp at Powell's Landing, Virginia, where they worked 5 weeks pulling corn and picking beans. And when the fields have been stripped in North Carolina and Virginia, the trucks and buses again move north.
Fam, as you can see, living conditions for migrant workers were not the best. This is actually an image of my mom and 2 of my uncles and their cousins, and I'm pretty sure they were migrating to either a work camp in Georgia or South Carolina or even Michigan. I think this might have been in Michigan, because I got a lot of stories growing up from them in their migration to Michigan. So a lot of the times, those children were either left on the bus or they were working in the field. So my mom said if you're old enough, of course your parents would bring you out in the field and you had to also, fill some buckets up. So, I know my family migrated from different rural areas in Florida, and seasonally they migrated to, follow the trend in the harvest. So luckily my family were able to be in Florida majority of the time simply because of the citrus. So I know that is the sector that my family worked in quite a bit.
Only 6 states have summer schools for migrants. The New Jersey School Center is at Cranberry.
Laura, how old are you?
11.
11, what grade are you in?
In the 6th.
6th grade. Do you intend to go to high school, Laura?
Yeah.
What would you like to be?
I like to be a teacher.
What would you like to teach?
I like to teach the 5th grade.
What do you think about going to school here in Cranberry, New Jersey, Harriet?
I like it. I like it.
Well, good. Would you, do you have any idea what you want to do when you grow up?
Be a teacher.
Well, good. How old are you, Patricia Ann?
8.
What
9.
grade? 9? What grade are you in?
4.
Do you have any idea what you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
What's that?
A nurse.
Otis, what would you like to do when you grow up?
Be a doctor.
You going to be a doctor?
Yes.
What kind of a doctor, do you know?
I think I'd rather be a dentist.
A dentist?
Teeth.
Mrs. Christine Shack, their teacher, was asked about her pupils.
Mrs. Shack, do your pupils, who are, most of them, children of migrant families, are they anxious to get an education?
Terribly anxious, even more so than the child in the normal school year.
Fam, I'm going to end on that note. Some of you understand from a biblical standpoint why we went through the things that we went through and still going through some of the things. So if you don't know and you're not familiar, you can go ahead and read Deuteronomy 28, read the blessings and the curses, and you can understand why the Most High Yahuwah sent us in this foreign land to be treated the way we have been treated and still treated to this day. So fam, I'm not going to go much further into this because, like I said, there's way more to unpack. So fam, if you are looking to repatriate or even visit Tanzania, you can reach out to Jamaican African Travels. Their information is linked below, their email and their WhatsApp. They are reliable in helping you make the big move. You can start planning ahead, even if you know you're moving 2 years from now, 3 years from now, whatever. They are available and they can help you. So they can help you step by step. They can help you acquire land. They can help you or advise you on whether you should start your business now or you should move into the country or visit the country first. They also have a repatriation ebook that you can also email them about. But again, fam, you already know what it is. If you plan to travel to Tanzania in the next 4 months or 6 months or even a year, I have 2 big trips coming up. I'm so excited. Most of you know by now that we travel back and forth from Tanzania and the U.S., soon to be some other African countries. I'll be so happy to announce that once that is off the ground. But fam, just keep us in prayer. You keep your family covered in prayer. And again, if you want to link up with me relating to travel to Tanzania, you can email me at origindenal@gmail.com. Y'all bless, fam.